Welcome to the Unraveling Shaltazar podcast. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello, Mark. And how are you this afternoon?
Tired. It's one of those we've talked about before. One of those kind of those low energy days, I think, where weather's not really nice here. It was actually snowing this morning, which that's not good for anybody at this time of year, and
not in the middle of April. Yeah, and we're getting it tomorrow. I think there's a bit of a rivalry between Chicago and Toronto because a few years ago, I believe we overtook you as the fourth largest city in North America. Oh. And I think with it came your wind. We got your wind, and we seem to get some of your lousy weather. And so, I don't mind if you take that title back with all of the side effects that came with it.
Well, the next thing we're going to export are our politicians. So get ready for that. Get your prisons cleaned up.
Well, yeah, that's kind of interesting because our premier is under the gun, and there's a big call to have him resign, and it's around the handling of COVID. And I don't know about you, but I have great empathy for any politician, whether I like them or not, whether I like their policy or not. The fact that I would not want to be in the situation to have to make decisions during this very difficult and challenging time in human history. So
yeah, I agree. I have the utmost sympathy for anybody that's in that position because a very difficult landscape to navigate, I think. And I mean, the right answer keeps moving, keeps changing, and pretty soon it's going to come full circle, and the right answer is going to be the wrong answer, and the wrong answer is going to be the right answer. And I don't envy anybody that's in that role.
Right. And they seem to be fulfilling the role of punching bag for all of the citizens of the world that are angry, upset, frustrated, and on and on and on. So, but from a Shaltazar perspective, this is about the energy of the great potential for change, and I think we need to be riled up in order to make these changes. So yeah, it's like it's springtime, right? So it's like when the farmers plant the fields, they go out there after winter and everything has been frozen and unfrozen, and you've got this solid, hard-packed earth, and so they have to go out there with a plow and dig it up and stir it up so the seeds will have a place to take root. And that's kind of seems to be the purpose of everything that's been going on the past year, 2 years, whatever. Yeah. Well, if the purpose is being stirred up, I would think that there is success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that part's worked for sure. Yeah.
And so I love getting together on a weekly basis with you because we sort of have this little oasis of trying to help calm it down, make some sense of the wild and crazy ride that we're on, and I love that whole process of you choosing a message from Shaltazar and me listening to it and being reminded of it and start thinking about it and then our conversation. So it's one of the things that I think is more of a calming effect than a stirring up effect. And so Thank you for doing it with me.
Oh, sure. My pleasure. I enjoy it. I enjoy it too. I picked a message this week, which is, again, it's a little bit of a different one, sort of keeping in the same theme of the past few weeks, though. This one's called Moving Beyond Your Human Limitations. And I originally listened to it, probably a couple years ago, from, I believe, directly from you, from your website, but I listened to it this time on Insight Timer. And it shows up on Insight Timer as a meditation. In fact, the title says meditation, moving beyond your human limitations. And this is another one I'm gonna suggest that might be a good one to go revisit and redo as more of a pure meditation, because there's still some Shaltazar intro information in it, and some Shaltazar style in it, I guess, but. It's kind of a message where they take you into an out-of-body experience. Is that? Do you agree with that?
Yes, and it's so interesting because I believe the title of it is Mystical Meditation, Moving Beyond Your Human Limitations.
Right.
And I want you to know that was Insight Timer that did that, not me. Because at one point they were making some changes to titles. And I, being the subservient person I am, right? I never was the rebel. It's like, oh, okay, if they want to change my title, go ahead and change my title. And that was interesting because I forgot about that when I went to look for it this morning to listen to it. And I put in the title and I looked at it and it's like, oh, mystical meditation. I didn't call it that. Insight Timer did. And so thank you for that. And I just before we got recording, I thanked you for the pure potentiality meditation that I just redid into a meditation. And I loved it. I loved the experience of it. So thank you for that suggestion. It's like I got kind of excited when you said that again. And so it's kind of interesting the way the universe works, right? I mean, Insight Timer calls it a mystical meditation. You chose it. We're going to talk about it. And just after I finished doing pure potentiality meditation or a rework of it, you bring up this and it's like, whoa, this is kind of a trend and I love it. And it's kind of neat because dealing with Shaltazar, you never know where you're going to go, but obviously, this is another suggestion. You've put down the gauntlet, so I'm going to give that one a try. Thank you so much. It is very, very, very much mystical, and they do take you on that ride, that out of body experience. And my sense is, when I re-listened to it this morning, is because they want you to understand at a deeper level what is beyond your human limitations, and so they take you. I think they say something about taking you before you incarnated into human form. They take you back into the formless, eh?
Yeah, that was something that really hit me hard. Because if you can get yourself into a meditative state and actually take that suggestion to remember the experience of what you were before you were born here, wow, that's like, and you can kind of do it. It's one of those things like, that you get a taste of it and then you try to grab onto it and you lose it. But, that's really a profound little exercise to attempt.
Well, it is, and we talked before we got on the pure potentiality meditation, which you haven't quite listened to the rework on. I'm excited for you to do so because it's exactly that. They take you to that out of body experience, and each time they do, they refer to the people that had near-death experiences, and that's the closest. There's one other, and that is it just doesn't matter. The it just doesn't matter meditation also takes you to very much of an out-of-body experience. There, they take you out into the unity where there's lights and sound, and I love the line in that where they talk about the sound. It's as if, the way they describe it, it's as if 10,000 orchestras are playing all in harmony at the same time. And so they try to give you a sense of that formlessness of us. And in this one, the purpose is for us to realize the energy without limitations. And then they bring you back into form, and then they continue to talk about this human limitation thing. But the whole purpose of the out-of-body experience is so you can feel that pure potentiality, that limitlessness, that exuberance, freedom of pure love, of very much godlike sense.
Yeah. There's a line in here somewhere that talks about experiencing your power, and I meant to highlight it and I forgot, but it was talking about that you realize that you're more powerful than you ever imagined. And that kind of was that kind of made me stop and think too. What is that power, and why can we only feel it when we're detached from our human form?
And therein, I think, lies the essence of the power of this message. And how they did it was kind of neat, because they take us off on this journey of formlessness so that we can hopefully, in a meditative sense, get a feel for that power. And then they bring you back into your body and start talking about, and this is the part of the message that really stands out for me, the self-imposed human limitations. And that really got me thinking today, because I recall what I did to my kids, what my parents did to me, how much limitation is heaped upon us as we start to mature, as we start to grow up. The times that our parents say, no, you can't do that, or you can't do that, or this institution or that institution talks about rules, regulations. And I think what Shaltazar is saying is that it's easy for you to be indoctrinated, conditioned with these self-imposed limitations. And then when you try to stand in your power, when you try to fulfill your heart's passion, your soul's desire, you are faced with these self-imposed limitations. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't do this, and on and on and on. So we've, unwillingly programmed our brain with these self-imposed limitations. Now, it's interesting because Shaltazar then sort of talks about, that's not to be confused with the limitations that are imposed upon you by the source. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of interesting. They don't talk a lot about it, but the subtlety of that is, being in our human body, there is a certain limitation. I mean, the masters of the planet have been able to figure out how to teleport and create wine when the pitcher is empty, and all kinds of things like that. But the slower vibration of the human body and of planet Earth does put certain limitations to us, right? I mean, there's gravity. You jump off the bridge, you're probably, depending on the length of the fall, you could end your human life. Those are the limitations that Source has put upon living on planet Earth. But that shouldn't be confused with the self-imposed limitations of, I'm not good enough, I can't do that, I'm not smart enough, and on and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The physics of the Earth, right? We can't fly. We can't, live underwater without, an oxygen, an air source, right? But so those are the physical limitations of this dimension are irreconcilable. We can't really get around those. At least we don't know how at this point in our evolution.
And that's an important part of this message, because often the messages from Shaltazar are very empowering and leading us to believe that we can do anything. And in this little part of the message, there's this subtlety to say, we want you to know, we want you to feel powerful, and we want you to feel that you can accomplish, that you don't have to feel as limited as you do, but there are some limitations that you're going to have to live with, and those are the physics that you're talking about. And so there's a little bit of reality there, but there's still a lot of pump up to say you're a lot more limited than just the physics, just than the science, just than the limitations set upon you by the source itself.
Right. Yeah, they say in here that trying to inspire you to move to a place where you can let go of some of the more burdensome limitations you live with in human form. You can never let go of all of them, but there are many, and we repeat, many of your limitations that can be released. Many of your limitations are self-imposed from your years of conditioning. Being told you are limited has convinced you that that is the case. Yeah, and then it goes on to say, that.
Read that one again. Read that last line. Okay, being told.
Many of the limitations are self-imposed from years of conditioning. Being told you are limited has convinced you that that is the case. Unfortunately, there are also limitations that are not imposed by human experience. Those are the limitations that the Creator has imposed on human life.
Right. Let's think about it. In your life, in my life,
right.
Okay, what are those limitations that we believe that we were told that we have?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I always kind of look back at the experiences of our parents and how that shaped their lives, and then in turn pass those things along to they then in turn pass those things along to us. My parents were kids during the Great Depression, right? So there was this fear of scarcity that was implanted in them at a very early age, and then that fear of scarcity then translated into this drive or push to provide, make money, job security, all those little those things that surround money, and I think that starts you out on a road where you tend to, is the word sublimate, push down
Mm-hmm.
Your natural tendencies to want to be creative and free and explore your creative side in favor of something more practical and concrete, like a paycheck or an income or something like that. I mean,
right.
That comes to mind, I guess, for me.
Yeah, it puts you in a box, right? Puts you in a box. I mean, it's interesting because my parents, of course, same generation, grew up in the Great Depression. And one of the lines that I'm just hearing my father say it now: money doesn't grow on trees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Money doesn't grow on trees, right? And exercises I like to give the people I work with is to surface those self-limiting beliefs. And the best way to do it is just sit down with a pen and paper and start thinking of those one-liners, right? Okay? Money doesn't grow on trees. You've got to be smart to get ahead. You know how many people feel inadequate? How many people have self-imposed limitations because they think their intellect isn't smart enough?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Lots of people.
Yeah. Sports. I mean, I was terrible at sports, and for the longest time, I really didn't pay as much attention to my physical fitness as I could have, because I thought there was this self-imposed limitation of me not being physically adequate, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so now my exercise is, I go to the gym once a week and I do lots of walking. And I golf, right? Golf's a pretty sedate
mm-hmm.
sport. It's just me and that little white ball, which never really behaves the way it's supposed to.
It's a defective ball. It's not your fault.
Yeah, it must be. Although I must say that I've changed my belief in that one, and that's what this is all about. I believe in a very subtle way, Shaltazar is encouraging us to change those self-imposed limitations, the self-limiting beliefs. I've come to see golf as a way of knowing whether I am more zen, more relaxed. Mm-hmm. And I've watched it, and the harder I try in golf, the worse I do. Mm-hmm. The more relaxed I am, the better I do. Mm-hmm. So for me, golf is that report card on my sense of ease and flow. And so now I wind up I'm out in nature. I wind up getting, steps, walking. I like to try and do 10,000 steps a day, mm-hmm. although a lot of days I don't. But golf is a game that allows me to get physical exercise, but also fits into my my mental emotional plan of becoming less stressed and more in balance. Mm-hmm. So I really encourage people, maybe you want to throw out a few. What are those one-liner self-limiting beliefs that pop into your mind right now?
Well, money doesn't grow on trees is always one. No pain, no gain.
Yes.
That's
no pain, no gain. Just think, I mean, think about how limiting that is, right?
Yeah.
If you want to gain, then you're going to have pain.
You have to suffer.
And as Tony Robbins says, we are attracted to pleasure and deterred from pain, right? Mm-hmm. So just think about that, right? Okay. So if there's this belief that we're attracted to pleasure and deterred from pain, and the only way to get gain is pain, you've limited your gain in life, haven't you?
Right. Yeah. And you won't ever expect gain unless it comes at a cost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how much pain are you willing to put up with in order to gain, right?
Exactly.
So see how limiting. So with what Shaltazar is saying is that these self-limiting beliefs, these self-imposed limitations, are not the fault of the source. The source created planet Earth with a certain science, with a certain physics, so we can't fly and we can't jump off bridges and other things like that. But most of our dissatisfaction, most of our suffering comes from those self-imposed limitations.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You've got one. You and I have talked about it a number of times. Time.
Right.
Around time, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Never enough time, right? What's that quick phrase that pops into mind when you think of time?
Tempest fuges. Time is fleeting, or time is the tyrant. There's a bunch of them surrounding time.
Right. Yeah. Right. So no wonder your relationship with time is not very enjoyable.
Right.
So it's Wow. I'm just looking at the clock and speaking of time, right?
Evaporated.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting because we didn't allow time to be a limitation, and then all of a sudden, without us worrying about whether we're going to go over or not, we just glance at the clock and it's like, okay, our time's up, which is kind of interesting. So again, the big drive home from this one is watch the self-imposed limitations that you put upon yourself, because it is the source of great suffering and stress.
Yes. Let it go. Right.
Beautiful. Exactly. It's exactly what Shaltazar would say. Let it go.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. This was a good one. I enjoyed the conversation as always.
I did as well. Thank you so much. Love and light to everyone.
If you have any questions about the Master Teachings of Shaltazar, we invite you to submit them to Jeffrey at jeffreyeisen.com, and we will make your question the topic of a future episode.